Hi, I'm Dan Hegstead. Welcome to my vlog and podcast, Next Steps, Tools for Transforming from Coping to Thriving. It's based on my book, which is a paperback and also a Kindle e-reader and on Audible as an audiobook read by me. And the links to that are on my website. And if you're looking for a good speaker, and if you can't find one, please think of me. The website is danhegstead.com. So we're doing a series here on the brain, a deeper dive following episode 2. And I think this is episode 14. So I suggest let's do episode 2 first, and then you can jump back here. And then I'm doing a little deeper dig into some of these concepts. And this will be the last one. We're going to cover 4 different things today and then move on to some other subjects. So just a reminder that this base brain, this reptilian brain, or somebody said, well, it's the mammalian brain. Okay, whatever. It's the simple, basic brain that takes in all information and then decides what to do with it. It is nothing more than simple. It just wants to keep you alive, keep you safe. It doesn't care about nuance or gray areas. It's either safe or it's going to kill you. And if it's a bad thing that could kill you, all it wants to do is not do that. And that's as far as it goes. We need to, with intention, engage our higher brain and say, okay, no, we can figure this out. So, but you can get through life just fine letting that base brain run everything. You're going to be safe. That's all it wants. But, that's not a good way to live. So we need to think about these things. But here are some of these things we run up against. For example, rhyming. Your brain loves things that rhyme, and for reasons I do not know, and I don't know that anybody knows, it just gloms on to anything it hears that's said in a rhyme. It's like chocolate-covered chocolate. It just loves it. It just eats it up. And they use it a lot in advertising, not so much anymore, which is surprising because it's remarkably effective. But back in the day, one of the greatest ones was "See the USA" in your Chevrolet. It was just great. But then you hear things like, it's not Adam and Eve, it's not Adam and Steve, it's Adam and Eve. Well, that's just nonsense. It rhymes and it's clever, but it's not true. And you need to go back to look at the O.J. Simpson trial. Google that one. In the closing arguments, Johnny Cochran was talking about this leather glove that didn't fit. It was too small for O.J.'s hand. And so there's DNA evidence that says that there's a 1 in 10 billion chance that he's not guilty. But anyway, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. And they acquitted him, and he got away with double murder because of a rhyme. And I don't think that is overstating it. The brain loves rhyming. So whenever you hear something said in a rhyme like that, or alliterations and so forth, it just pings my BS meter because it doesn't mean it's true, but your base brain loves it. So you say, nah, wait a minute, let's think about that. So rhyming is something to really pay attention to. And then you hear about people say, well, it's just common sense. That pings my meter too, because, well, how arrogant. It just means it's so obvious that it has to be true, and that just isn't the case. It also means I have common sense and you don't. And that's where that arrogance comes in. Well, when you hear there's nothing common about sense, but that appeals to your base brain. Well, it's just common sense. As I said, this base brain just loves black and white. It's either this or it's that. And that's where perfectionism comes in. It loves things that are perfectly perfect. And if it's not, it's perfectly awful. And that just isn't the way this planet works. It just isn't. But if perfection is your only goal, you'll accomplish nothing. Perfection leads to paralysis. And this shows up where we're dealing with some of the big issues of the day. These days, it's abortion and gun control, as it has been for the last decades. You want a perfect solution? You're going to fight for that perfect solution or nothing else? Guess what? Nothing's going to happen. Because once you dig into the exceptions, the legitimate exceptions to any rule, well, then it starts getting gray, and then the people who are into perfection just check out, and reality is there's going to be some gray areas. You want to accomplish things, you shut off or tone down that lower brain, engage the higher brain and say, okay, well, we're never going to get to perfection, but if we're going to get something done, we've got to move forward. Perfection leads to paralysis, and your base brain loves perfection, and it's always going to be disappointed. And that's where mistakes come in, too. There's people who don't want to do anything because they're likely to make a mistake. Well, of course you're going to make a mistake. It's just reality. It's the way it is. But if you look at mistakes as failure, yeah, I get that. Your base brain wants you to be happy and safe, and so it doesn't want you to make mistakes because mistakes make you feel bad. And so don't do anything. Don't try anything. Well, that's no way to live. You have to be willing to make, well, they're not mistakes if you don't know any better. You're doing the best you can. Richard Nixon, of all people, was quoted as saying, you haven't failed when you make a mistake. You fail when you quit. Now, this sounds like toxic positivity, but it is not. This is reality in that you are not making mistakes if you learn from it and try again, or you learn from it and say, this isn't what I want, once it's your decision. And that is absolutely true. Mistakes are not mistakes. They are, in fact, education. And that is not toxic positivity. That's the reality of it. So you're learning and you move on. That's the way things work. Your base brain hates that. Your higher brain understands it. Go with your higher brain on this one. Mistakes are okay. And mistakes come along with that perfectionism, too. They go hand in glove, so to speak. And so I challenge you to set out to do a project 75% correct. Even if you could do better, don't. And just do that as practice to teach your brain it's going to be okay. It's hard to do, but do it. Try that. And the last thing I want to mention is cause and effect. This is a big one. Your brain loves to know why things happened. And if it doesn't know, it's going to make up something. It's going to go with whatever seems to be right, and it's okay with that. It doesn't care whether it's right or not. It just cares whether it's satisfied. Listen to that. Cause and effect. I ate at this restaurant, I got sick, so the food at the restaurant made me sick. You don't know that. It may be, but maybe not. And there's 1,000 things like that happen all the time. And you can't just assume that because you think something, it's correct. Don't believe everything you think. Your base brain wants to know why something happened so it can avoid it again. It's nonsense a lot of the time. Now, there's part of what I'm told is Japanese business philosophy that says if you have a problem and you identify the cause of that problem, you haven't learned much. You need to find the cause of that, and then the cause of that, and down at least 5 levels. If you've dug down 5 levels to find the chain of events that caused this thing, you probably have got the root cause. 5 levels. You have to dig down 5 levels. And even then, you're not sure. But if you're just dealing with, well, business is down, well, the salesmen aren't working hard enough. I mean, who knows? You just can't do that. That thinking doesn't work. You have to dig down. Cause and effect. Early experiments in psychology, they had animals, as I recall the story, it was a pigeon. They'd feed it a pellet of food every once in a while. And the pigeon thinking, well, I was hopping on one foot when that food arrived. That's what caused the food. And so over time, the animals developed just weird behavior because they were being rewarded, and they seemed to believe what they did caused the pellet of food to fall. We do the same thing. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Engage your higher brain and be ready to say, this happened. I don't know why. I don't know why yet. Cause and effect. Your brain loves it and will jump to conclusions just to give it an answer that satisfies. But also remember that high standards can work against you if taken to the extreme. All your great traits work against you when taken to the extreme. That's a very fundamental rule of life. Your best assets can be your worst attributes if taken to extreme. So moderation and all those things. Your base brain wants perfection, it wants answers, simplicity, and it'll do whatever it can just to make itself, you, happy. Engage your higher brain. Think these things through. Be willing to accept imperfection, mistakes, ambiguity, because that's reality. And that's how you move from coping to thriving. So there you go. That wraps up this little session on the brain. Next session, we're going to move on. If you are interested in the book, of course, the link is on my website, danhegstead.com. If you're looking for a good speaker and you can't find one, check me out, danhegstead.com. I appreciate you watching or listening to the vlog. Next steps, tools for transforming from coping to thriving.